Hey everybody, Dirili here. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Hakuouki Kyoto Wins. Okay, so I have to post this video before I post Sakamoto's bad endings because I go through some common route material that I have to go through to get to those bad endings, so I have to say what went on in this video. Now, I got tricked into doing this basically because the walkthrough for Sakamoto said that what I do here in this video is his normal ending, okay? Which is after the whole thing you went through to clear his route for the next game. Now, okay, I go through this, and it barely has anything to do with him at all. And then, spoiler alert, but the ending is not his. It's an unattributed ending. You don't end up with anybody. You're alone. Totally dead end. Not even a dead end with a guy. So, yeah, I don't know. What was this, an April Fool's thing? Why is this under Sakamoto's walkthrough? I don't understand how this came to be. But yeah, I had to put it out there because it's there and the common material has to be in the list. So, you know, people don't get lost, I guess, at some point. So, here it is. When I made the first playthrough, there was a save I had to make around chapter 3, sometime in chapter 3. Yeah, so anyway, at this point, we had to say, go with them this time. Wait, okay, so some of these still result in the same things that I've already done. And once again, go back to headquarters. But Heisuke again. Yeah, it is. Man, are these really the same choices I made when I was on? Oh, maybe this is like an alternate route. And here we say, no, I'll take care of it. It's pretty much all the same stuff. Why did I have to... Oh, unless these were the choices I went through in Sanin's route, not Ryoma's route the first time. It's not any of my business. My father? The Furies again? The soldiers? Someone close to the people who are leaving? No. Go outside. Scream. And we actually ran into some new text here, so Nagakura mentioned Ryoma Sakamoto. He was a ronin from the Tosa domain, and allied himself with the Satsuma and Choshu domains too. For a time, the Kyoto Judiciary Commissioner, Mimawari-gumi, and even the Shinsengumi were desperate to find him. I had met him once before. The Shinsengumi were on the lookout for him, and I happened to be with them at the time. But a certain incident happened. The orders were passed down to leave him be. Ever since then, he hadn't entered my mind, and I heard nothing about or how he was doing. I heard Inoue mention him. I listened. Oh, okay, so this route took us, like, in a roundabout way, so we didn't actually have anything to do with him since way back in the earlier chapters.
Ryoma Sakamoto.
Oh my god! What the hell? If he's been assassinated, how am I gonna have a normal ending with him?
Ryoma Sakamoto has been assassinated.
You serious, Gen? Did they know who did it? I guess maybe he's a Fury and we don't know yet.
Sakamoto had a lot of enemies. It could have been imperialist or loyalist. Hell, it could even have been something personal, in which case my money's on Miura of Kishu.
Huh, you think maybe they're looking at us for it? Damn, and the bastard was gonna get killed anyway. I should have done him in.
That's, not very funny coming from you. In fact, weren't we specifically told to leave him alone?
Sakamoto... It's not as if we were close, or even like I could call him a friend or something like that. But to hear this kind of news about someone I knew was still painful. Yeah, since there's more to this, to his normal end, it must mean that he did become a Fury, and we don't know it yet. Alright, so this choice... I have to decide to stay home. I understand. I'll stay behind. That's right. There's a chance that we may have to fight Heisuke. Would I be of any use if and when that were to happen? The more I thought about it, the more I couldn't bear to be a burden to anyone.
I see. Understood.
After I saw everyone off, I sighed. As my breath blew white, I looked up to the sky. The moon was a full circle, watching silently. They would all be going to battle. If I went, I would only be in the way. Or perhaps it was simply an excuse to allow myself to feel better for staying behind because I didn't know what to say to Heisuke. Harada and Nagakura are his best friends. If anyone can bring them back, they can. My mind occupied with worried thoughts of Heisuke and the others, I wandered around the compound and before long found myself outside. I was about to go back in when I heard footsteps running toward me. Yamazaki?
What are you doing out here? You weren't supposed to go out alone.
Oh, sorry.
No, it doesn't matter. We don't have time. This is serious. I need you to get everyone into the main hall. Can you help me round them all up? Quickly now.
Serious? Does he look like he's joking? The main hall was noisy, even though most of the Shinsengumi was elsewhere.
Soji is resting, so I decided to leave him be. Is that all right?
Yes, that's fine. Alright, I can't wait any longer. We'll just have to start without Shimada.
Has something happened? I'd never seen Yamazaki so impatient. Whatever it was that he had to say, it had to be big. He was making me nervous. I waited for Yamazaki to continue.
Did Ito's assassination not go as planned?
No, the assassination was a success. And we were able to lure the guard to Aburano Koji with his body and surround them.
So few words to mark the death of a man. But Yamazaki pressed forward, and I had no time left to feel sad.
Unfortunately, we were interrupted by a third party just as we were about to deal with the guard. I'm assuming it's the Satsuma.
Oh no! Are Nagakura and Harada and Heisuke alright?
Our men are outnumbered. We have the upper hand in skill. Still, I'm unsure how long they'll be able to hold off such an overwhelming force.
Then, we need to send reinforcements right away. Shimada and I can go.
Just as Inoue stood up, there was an explosion of noise from outside. What was that noise? Shocked glances were exchanged just as Shimada came through the door, distress plain on his face.
We're under attack. It's a demon.
What? Why now?
Oh, I doubt it's a coincidence. Can you give us any details, Shimada? Is it just a single demon, or are there 2 or 3? No, only one. He's thin, with a sword.
And blonde, I guess?
Sword. It's Chikage Kazuma.
We ran through the door, then came to a sudden halt, frozen by the scene before us. Everywhere there were bodies, and the air was thick with the stench of blood. Ugh! The scent was so strong that one need not be a fury to be driven mad by it.
These are all men from the Fury Corps. Did Kazuma do this by himself?
If the Fury Corps is here, then Sana must be nearby as well. Where is he? Over there. This is all a pretender can do. Pathetic imitation. Die like the dog you are.
One of the Furies who'd leapt at Kazuma alongside Sanin fell to the ground with a groan.
Damn you!
You're better than this filth. But you're still nothing more than a pale reflection of true power.
Of all the Fury Corps, Sanin was the only one who could even begin to stand before Kazuma's onslaught. But even he was no match for the demon. Kazuma kicked out almost casually at a charging Fury, throwing him across the yard, and continued his slow walk forward.
Stay back, Yukimura. We'll take care of him.
Yeah. But...
Kazuma is dangerous, but he isn't the only enemy here. You never know when his comrades may show up. Besides, the Furies could go rogue at any moment, and there's a high chance they could threaten us.
The two eventually nodded to one another and ran off, sword in hand.
Yukimura, please hide inside. We will go after Kazuma.
Nobody's going to protect me? Hey! Shimada ran and went off to back up Sanin and Inoue. I didn't know why Kazuma had chosen this time to attack, but even if I faced him, I would be completely useless. What then was I to do? I'll go find Saito. If Inoue and the others were here, and Okita was in bed, there was still one more man unaccounted for who might still be able to help. I'd only run a short distance when I collided with someone. Saito! No, you're... The man I'd hit was a fury, mad with bloodlust. I scrambled back just as a voice called out from the darkness behind me.
Down.
I love that effect, it's so cool. Saito! As I threw myself to the ground, it occurred to me that it was slightly ironic to have been saved by the man I'd gone to find. When I turned, he was studying the fallen fury, his mouth a thin line.
The Fury Core has lost control then. Unfortunate.
Saito! Kazuma's here. Inoue is fighting him with some of the other men, but...
I see. Where?
Over here. Huh? My legs were shaking so bad I couldn't move. Whether it was because of the fury who'd attacked me, or the thought of facing Kazuma again, or relief at seeing Saito, I couldn't say. He looked down at me, shivering on the floor, and his voice was cool and calm. Oh.
You needn't worry. So long as I have orders to protect you, I will do so. Regardless of circumstances.
My body stilled. Saito was a man of few words, and when he did speak, it was never unnecessarily, but he had taken the time to comfort me. That meant he... Thank you.
There is no time. We must go.
Huh. Oh, it's so sad for me when we get scenes from the other guys when we're on somebody else's route. When we returned to the battlefield I'd left only moments ago, Kazuma was still engaged.
Damn you.
Shimada, stay in position. If even one of us is killed, the formation is ruined.
Sweat shone on their brows, and their chests heaved as each of them struggled for breath. Kazuma looked almost completely unfazed. He had killed countless furies, fought to a standstill, and not suffered even a single scratch. Inoue!
Yukimura, you bought Saito, good.
If anyone is hurt, please tell them to pull back. I will handle this.
If anyone could, it's him.
All these weaklings here were beginning to bore me. But now that you're here, it's time to play.
Actually, I would have thought Sanin would have been a good match, too.
Yes, I am. And I have come to check your rampage, or at least to try. Nonetheless, I have been ordered to protect her, and so I will.
His body lowered into a crouch, and his hand reached for his sword. He was preparing for Iai. Instead of entering a stance of his own, Kazuma looked at Saito for a moment, then sheathed his own sword and slowly backed away.
You're running? Unfortunately, I'm here today only to buy time for another. I'm not here on personal business, and I never intended to stay long.
His eyes slid to me, and he smirked.
Remember that this is the fate of a false demon.
His cold gaze fell on the corpses of the Furies.
Blood drives them to madness, and for what? Even in mass that cannot defeat a true demon. They are pathetic creatures, destined to die like dogs. Do you really wish to live surrounded by such filth? Better that you come with me.
No, I'll never do that. He flashed his teeth in a grin, then turned on his heel and melted into the darkness.
He's retreated. Are you okay?
Yes. But only because you protected me.
I see.
I couldn't shake what Kazuma had said. Scattered atop the floor were the brutally slain remains of the Furies.
Inoue, we've got some bad news. Some of the Furies that got past us made it into the building.
I see. How much damage did they do?
Not much. They were killed almost immediately. By whom?
Okita?
There's no one inside who could have done that. By Okita. When I went to his room, the floor was covered in dead Furies.
What? But I thought Okita was too sick to fight.
That's why we need to get Dr. Matsumoto immediately.
Yes, I'll go with you. And this time I went to help again. Trust Hijikata again. Return immediately again. Okay, here we go, new stuff. It was a cold December morning when Kondo and Okita were sent to Osaka Castle. I was performing the final check of everyone's belongings when Hijikata had called upon me. I grew almost sick with worry. Had something happened to Kondo or Okita? I slowly made my way to Hijikata's room as the potential scenarios played out in my head. In the common room, Hijikata sat waiting for me. Because of how the last few days had played out, Hijikata always seemed to wear a grave expression. The absence of Okita and Kondo seemed to break the heart of Hijikata silently but assuredly. Knowing he was dealing with so much, I did my best to listen to any request Hijikata may have had. I was hoping to be of service right beside Hijikata. However, what Hijikata had revealed to me proved this was not the case.
Sorry to say, but I want you to head to Osaka Castle with Kondo and Soji.
That was the complete opposite of what I'd wanted. True, I was quite concerned about Kondo and Okita, and at one point I even entertained the idea of possibly heading to Osaka Castle with them. But since Dr. Matsumoto was already at Osaka Castle, all I wanted to do was care for things around here and do my best to play my part with everyone else. Thinking about all the duties, including making the warriors meals and tending to the wounded, I truly hoped this was the time I could show my worth to everyone by helping those in need. I looked up at Hijikata, and although I was shaking, I mustered the courage to speak my mind. May I ask you one thing? Are you sending me to Osaka Castle because you'll think I'll be on the way during the war? Hijikata's face remained stern, and he did not seem to be offended by the forwardness of my question. But he just shook his head and closed his eyes.
You're so good to us. If I could have it my way, I'd want you to be right here with us, but I'm asking you this as a personal favor. I want someone I can trust to handle and look after the two of them. So please, would you go to Osaka Castle for me?
Hijikata trusts me. He wanted me to look after them. And he even said please to me. My heart fluttered at the sound of his words. If me going allows you to enter the battlefield without worry, then yes, I'll go.
Thanks. Please take care of them.
Will do. Hijikata nodded from the curtness of my response, and he answered with full confidence. I had known that the Fushimi magistrate would become a battleground in the case that the Satsuma or Choshu were to strike. I wasn't in any position to help them, or even watch the fighting take place. Everyone, please be safe. Deep in my stomach, I felt a pang of reluctance as I left Kyoto for Osaka Castle. As soon as we'd arrived in Osaka, Kondo and Okita were brought to Dr. Matsumoto for examination. However, the results brought both good and bad news to us. The good news involved Kondo's recovery. We had been informed that Kondo's injury was not life-threatening, and we were just waiting for the shattered bones to heal and align. Okita, however, had less fortunate news from the results of the exam. The tuberculosis had begun to eat away at his lungs, and he was given a solitary room in the castle to recuperate. As I watched after the two of them, we had welcomed the New Year's celebration. A large battalion of troops were marching from Edo, and they passed Osaka Castle, later trekking through the Toba Highway, headed towards Kyoto. Upon bearing witness to the sheer number of soldiers heading to Kyoto, it seemed to convince us all that the Satsuma and Choshu would surrender. If such news were true, then perhaps we could return to Kyoto faster than we'd expected. January 1867. War upon the shogunate and the Satsuma Choshu troops erupted, causing my wishful thinking to come to an abrupt and depressing halt. Without knowing what exactly set the war in motion, I heard cannons and gunshots from in the direction of Kyoto. No one thought to give someone like me any updates. All I was told was that war had finally broken out, and I spent each and every day in worry alone. During the afternoon of the 5th of January, the castle had rumbled with commotion. The shogunate troops were allegedly pushed back, and then retreated from Kyoto in the direction of Fushimi. Does that mean the shogunate had lost? When I tried to pry answers from people in the castle, no one knew any details. Everyone seemed too busy thinking of how this affected themselves. Eventually, the men of the Shinsengumi began coming to the castle, one after another. I did my best to welcome the men of the Shinsengumi, despite all of them looking worn and dejected. Their familiarity with me meant they could share the bad news. The Satsumon Choshu were victorious. My concern for the safety of the men still fighting out there grew exponentially as I heard the sad news. Inoue had died in war, and Yamazaki was critically injured. Aside from them, many of our other warriors were killed as well. From what everyone had been telling me, before they knew what was what, now the Satsuma Choshu forces were appointed as imperial court troops. As soon as Yoshinobu Tokugawa, who led as the supreme commander of the shogunate, heard this, he left the castle on a ship to Edo, fearing retribution as an enemy of the new emperor. Even though I was at the castle during the same time as him, I had no idea any of this had occurred. Now, the domain who used to assist the shogunate troops were under the jurisdiction of the Satsumon Choshu forces, who were now imperialist troops. Under these trying times, it was growing difficult to justify continuing the war while holding the castle, so the remaining men here retreated to Edo. As for the Shinsengumi, they had been given orders to cease fighting, so like the rest of the shogunate troops, they were forced to retreat to Edo. Amidst the confusion, I was tasked with treating the wounded men who had returned to the castle. After most of the men were back, I was able to see Hijikata. His body was noticeably thinner and almost emaciated since I'd last seen him at the Fushimi Magistrate. I couldn't blame him. He had lost the war, and many of his comrades had died out there. No words of comfort came readily for me to give. However, it seemed as though Hijikata read through my concerns, and he approached me first.
Hey, sorry for leaving you here to deal with Kondo and Soji all by yourself. I know you probably heard already, but the Satsumon Choshu troops were instated under the Emperor, and our Supreme Commander ran off. At this rate, we couldn't continue fighting even if we wanted to. We have to return to Edo. But this isn't over. When we're back in Edo, we're going to convince the Shogun and the Shogunate that we plan on continuing this war.
Okay. At first, Hijikata came off as a little critical of himself, but toward the end, his powerful words showed that the Shinsengumi still had a future. When Hijikata heard my response, he nodded happily.
So, there's one more thing I need to tell you. When we return to Edo, I want you to leave us and return to your home.
But who's going to protect me against the demons?
I want you to wait there for the war to end. Wait for your father there, too.
What the hell? Hijikata's sudden request made me freeze. I didn't know what to do. Why am I the only one who gets to go home when the Shinsengumi was going through so much? No, yet again it was only me. What? But I want to be with you guys. I understand that I'm not an official warrior, but I thought at least that I was a member. I thought I was your page, Hijikata. Unlike our last encounter at Fushimi, Hijikata couldn't bring himself to look back at me. That was probably because I was asking him to give me a reason neither of us wanted to hear. Once the order was said aloud, I knew that I couldn't go against his wishes. I didn't even notice that Hijikata had walked up to me and stood as closely as he had been, and he placed his hands tenderly on my shoulders. His voice was more gentle and kinder than usual, and he put forth effort to convince me.
I wanted to keep you by our side as much as possible, but it can't be this way. The next time our forces meet, we're fighting to the death, and you're a woman. We can't ask you to share this burden with us. Please, for me, I can't bear to let you share the same fate as Gen or Yamazaki. I hope you understand.
For a moment, I didn't answer or look up. Hijikata calmly patted my back a few times, and he walked off without another word. It took everything inside of me to refrain from turning back or even responding to Hijikata. My eyes welled with uncontrollable tears. All I could do was bid farewell to the shadow as it walked off. January 9, 1867. The Shinsengumi were getting on the steamboat provided by the shogunate for their return to Edo. I separated from Hijikata and the other men, and I came aboard the Fuji Yamamura along with Kondo, Okita, and the other injured. A few days after the ship had set sail, Yamazaki, who had been suffering and fighting through his grave injuries, passed away beside the Kishu Sea. Watching a close friend die in person made me finally understand where Hijikata was coming from. I assumed this was the beginning of what could be a long, painful chapter for the Shinsengumi. Hijikata's request for me to leave meant that I would be involved in none of it as it unfolded. 4 years had passed since I'd come to Kyoto, and I'd shared many memories with the Shinsengumi. As I held these memories in my heart, I prayed for everyone's wishes to come true and for their safety. I prayed that when all this was over, that I could see all of them once again. I looked up at the sky toward the west. Forever and ever. Wait, how is that Sakamoto's normal end? It had nothing to do with him. He died. And didn't come back. And there's not look, they're not showing us anybody. Just 2 swords. Why is this in Sakamoto's walkthrough? Well, I guess this video is just gonna have to be... Alright, I'm not naming this video after Sakamoto. I'm naming this video, General Bad Ending. That's all I can think of. It's just a general ending, not toward anybody, just a bad ending. Or I just kind of get dropped off. Well, I guess I'm actually going to be making yet another video, because I really don't... I'm going to go ahead and break this one and make this its own video, and make Sakamoto's other 3 endings be its own video. Oh, good lord. Yeah, see, even the pictures they're showing, they're not Sakamoto's pictures at all. It's just general pictures. Oh, maybe I did something wrong. I definitely followed the walkthrough step by step, though. What happened? Could have been worse. Alright, so I guess that was just a general ending because it just had a picture of Chizuru, so... Yeah, why was that in Sakamoto's walkthrough? It had nothing to do with him. Alright, well yeah, like I said, I think the other 3 endings, while probably not very long, are probably still too long to fit with this, so I'll make it its own thing. So, hope to see you there for that other video, and I'd be so grateful for any likes, comments, subscriptions, or shares with your friends to show some support. Thank you so much for joining me, and I wish you all health, happiness, and safety. Dirili signing out. Bye bye everybody.